No, Phoenix is not a guest. He was a guest last week, but I want to talk about that episode some.
Thalmor Radio. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Thalmor Radio. Yeah, he's coming at you from the top. Oh no, no, he won't stop. Thalmor Radio. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Thalmor Radio.
Thalmor Radio.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the November whatever 28th. It's probably not the 28th. Welcome to the November 28th episode of Thalmor Radio. I am your host, some guy on the internet with a mic. I actually have things. Past 2 weeks I haven't had much to talk about, but now I have things to talk about. Things have happened, so that's cool. Things happening is much better than nothing happening. First off, I want to say Phoenix is here once again with us tonight, and I wanted to thank him again for coming on. On YouTube, the Phoenix episode is by far our most watched episode on YouTube. It has like 86 views last time I looked. Probably going to break 100. Roberts, you can find the episode in the recording thing in this server. Yeah, people were curious to see what he had to say, and he did a good job last week, so that's pretty cool. Tell me about it, Borg. It's a very niche YouTube channel for sure. Um, so Rebel asked me what's with my profile picture change, and that's why I want to address that as well, because I got a Thalmor rant here. For the past 5 weeks, I'm going to say, I have been binge watching The Sopranos, widely regarded as one of the best television shows of all time, which I concur with. I bought it as an impulse purchase last year or the year before. I got into crime dramas earlier this year thanks to the Yakuza franchise. The Sopranos is a crime drama, so I watched it and I fell in love with it immediately. And my profile picture is of the protagonist, Tony Soprano. It is like the final frame of the final scene of the final episode of the show, which I actually want to get into. I want to give my interpretation of the Sopranos ending, because the Sopranos is host to one of the most controversial endings in any show ever, and I want to talk about it. Spoilers, I suppose you could say. So, Borg, you haven't seen it. You might want to mute things for a couple minutes. Um, so, I don't want to go into the background of what the ending is, because that's a lot of talking. I don't want to talk that much. I say as I prepare to do a 2-hour show. Um, but to get to the point, I think the ending is Tony gets fucking shot in the head. Um, that seems to be the consensus of most fans today. Um, it wasn't for a while, but especially I think in recent years, that's what people have concluded. The scene ends with Tony's daughter. The scene is built up so that every time someone walks into the diner Tony's eating dinner with his family, the bell on the door rings, and then Tony looks up, and then he sees someone walking in. This happens 4 times. The final time it happens is when Tony's daughter Meadow walks in. He looks up, and then there's a very sudden, very awkward cut to black. All the music stops, and then it's just solid black for 15 seconds. And then all throughout the credits, it's just completely silent, even though there's usually always music playing throughout the whole other 85 episodes of the show. So it appears as if Tony gets fucking shot. And I think that makes sense. Great ending. I disagree. I think it's a great ending. I loved it. I love the show. I've made Tony Soprano my profile picture. It's probably going to be that for a while. Tony did get capped in the head. He got fucking Kennedy'd, okay? He put Kennedy to shame. That members only jacket guy, he went to the bathroom that's behind and to the right of Tony. He fucking aimed that gun off screen. Pow! Fucking dead. Why not stabbed in the head by Nippon Steel? That's cause no weebs. David Chase was very no weebs allowed. That's why. Got Lincoln. That's right. He got ass blasted, but in the head. Very good ending though. All right. Um, what's one other thing I want to talk about? Another thing, no bonus episode. I've been talking to Monty. He's part of this group that's taken over this one new Discord server, and I've been talking to him about doing a new bonus episode here shortly. That's we're still kind of talking about that. Firewolf, you just DM'd me something. Explain what that is real quick in my DMs if you want. Yeah, so hey Monty, we're sitting talks about that. It's probably going to be maybe this weekend or the weekend after. We'll see. Um, so I'll say more. I'll put out a message when something more definite happens. And that's about it. Let me go ahead. Let me start talking about the game. All right. So war updates. Nothing's changed. We're all sitting on the enemy coalition. And that's it. Okay, next topic. Something happened in mines, but I don't know what. So the coal mines protected Taith, and they abruptly ended this protection yesterday, day before. Yeah, very recently. And they said it was because Taith was planning to stab them in the back, and they stole 1.75 billion quadrillion dollars or something. So pretty rough. And he stole the 1.75 billion quadrillion dollars from like I think other people, not just the coal mines. If the coal mines at all, actually. So um, and then someone, I think it was Joe Comrade or Comrade Joe, said that like they stole 8 billion from Rose. I don't know, fucking accusations being thrown around. I don't know nothing. I've scrambled the past 24 hours to get guests on to talk about this. I got Nokia said he'd probably come on. Graybird's here. He said he'd probably come on. So hopefully we can get some clarification here shortly. So we'll iron that out here later tonight. Roberts, my next topic. Roberts has taken over ARG. He did a mutiny. ARG has a very unique system in which I think anyone below the Grand Admiral can do a mutiny, and then they vote who the new leader is. And it's a very, I don't know, very unconventional process. But Roberts is now the leader of ARG, and I made a thread about that. And I'm gonna have Roberts on here shortly to discuss what I'll just discuss the transition in general and get the vibe from him. And that's about it. I'm being kind of quiet here. I'm going past these topics because these two topics I'm going to have people on to discuss them with. So I'm kind of saving my thoughts until I have to talk to them. Final call for politics and war. Anything else happen I need to discuss before we get right into this? There have been press releases from Taith regarding, I think, recent events. I will look at those shortly. Arrow for number one of damage. Hey, that's nice, Borg. Good job. Sheepy did appear on some podcasts. That's very good. I'm happy Politics and War can get more publicity, but I don't really care that much. Theo nuked the 4.6 infrared retard. Very based, very based. I agree, Vero. I've been thinking about doing some memes myself because we are winning the actual war, but your side is winning the narrative, the diplomacy war, and the meme war, and that's too much. Also, Tate lead all girls are going famous and seize assets. Okay, it's fine. They won't watch his podcast. He was on Tariq Nasheed's podcast. uh, oh, Phoenyx, you're. I love you, bud. Keep it up. All right, so I'm moving on. Election news. Um, there's going to be a not insignificant number of people that, like, when Joe Biden assumes the presidency on January 20th, 2021, there are going to be people who still assume Trump is secret president because of how much they've bought into the QAnon nonsense. I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Um, Trump did get a win in Pennsylvania in that a judge stopped the certification, but then today, and his thing in appeals got fucked. So I don't know. I don't think Trump's pulling out a win here, guys. I don't. It was the chance of him holding onto the White House was slim, but I think it's I don't think it's happening. Yeah, QC. Well, I don't know. There's lots of money to be made in the Q boomers, in the YouTube channels dedicated to them. I don't. I think that's just a cope, Roz. I think that's a cope. Lots of cope happen. I don't think Trump's winning this one. I'm open to a good counter argument. Well, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm too black pilled on the Trump 2020 question, but we'll see. The most important alliance announcement. I think that's a bamboozle. I don't think there's really anything in that thread. I think that was something else. That is a incredible exchange, hi dude. That poor Nika guy really wanted something from you. That would be funny, Roz. Nika report himself to the mods? That sounds pretty base. What's the context of that one? Which the argument was that if a judge stops the Pennsylvania certification, it gives a precedent to, like, to catapult from there. But I don't know. It's just a cope. It's just a cope and a hope. I don't think he's ever changed representation except for Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell got fucking crazy with, oh, the Kraken, oh, Trump's won California, and it's like, okay, Sidney. Oh, the Kraken, oh, you might be on crack, but there's no crack, and Trump did not win Hawaii and California by millions of votes. Okay there, buddy. Do you guys really want, like, no argument? I don't. This is a safe space. Do you guys really want President Harris that bad? Because that's what's going to happen. You really want a cop as president? I don't like cops. I especially don't want a cop in the White House. That's we're all going to jail. We're all going to jail for one reason or another under Harris. Yeah, Trump probably will run again. And if he's alive, he probably will run again in 2024 because he's not going away. All candidates suck. Yeah, that's about right. Cope Mala. We could have secured that bag, Yang. I liked Mommy Gabbard. If we couldn't have Trump, I would have been happy with Mommy Gabbard. But no, we couldn't have the thick mommy president. We had to have Harris. Harris. Whatever. All right. Let's Let's talk to Roberts here. Can someone unmute Roberts? I think it's time we talk about ARG. You're right,
Hi.
Gabriel. Hey, Robert. You took over ARG. Why'd you take over ARG for?
Ripper. It was time for Ripper to retire.
Did he want to retire?
He voted for me, so I'm gonna go with probably. I think he was pretty much done. I think he was just holding the seat because nobody else had challenged him for it yet. Although it is worth saying Ripper is an excellent leader, and even while mostly inactive, was still better than half of PNW's leaders, I think, personally.
Yeah, usually doing just nothing is better than what a lot of other people do.
Well, he also ran started a lot of our programs that we do in ARG. So
Such as?
he basically set up our current banking system, which was a mess for the last 4 years, 3 years that I've been involved with ARG to some extent or another. He's pretty much the only one that's come in and actually fixed it in a useful way. Although if Borg would stop being selfish and just give us a bot, we really wouldn't have to do all of this work.
So like, ARG's bank was a mess for forever, essentially? No one knows who money
Like our
is?
record, the record keeping was messy. It wasn't a mess where like nobody knew anything, but it was not ideal. I'll say that.
Gotcha. So how does the mutiny process work in ARG?
So it's pretty funny. I actually thought most people understood it since we've been around for so long. But I've had quite a few people like DM me. Like TKR literally thought that I just pulled a coup on Ripper, and we're trying to like tell him he could join TKR if he felt like he had been ousted. And I was like, "What? That's not." So basically, it's just a called election. So instead of like a scheduled term limit or anything, it's just whenever you feel like it's time to start an election, you call the mutiny, and that's the process. Is again anarchic by nature and not very well defined, but typically what we do is open up a little channel on our Discord server for everybody to debate and ask questions or whatever, and then we open up a voting thread as well. So I mean, it's just a typical election with a fancy pirate name, for the most part. Very peaceful.
You got a couple questions there about it in chat if you want to respond to them.
Let me scroll up here. ARG is our training alliance. Okay, I don't know who Monty is, but he's probably right. Your ARG's training AA. Yang is also correct. Econ number 1 also correct. What does a leader in ARG do? So the Grand Admiral is typically, and I've like written a lot of these pieces of our rule set at this point. The Grand Admiral is supposed to be like a first among equals type deal. So the admirals in general run ARG as like a voting council, so to speak, and the members give their input as well. Sometimes they vote, sometimes we just ask them what they want to do. It just depends. And the Grand Admiral is kind of a last voice, if you will, but not exactly an executive, if that makes sense. So, like, hypothetically, I guess I could be overruled by majority vote.
Yeah,
Elective
gotcha.
dictatorship, not quite, but kind of. It's just anarchic. TKR. Was that the only question? Can any member call a mutiny? I guess technically it's not in the rule set. You have to be a certain rank to call a mutiny, I don't think. But traditionally, we've limited it to admirals. And that's, I think one dude in the whole time I've been with ARG has called a mutiny and he wasn't already in government. And he pretty much got laughed out of his mutiny. So, I mean, they can, but I don't think it goes very well.
So who, like, did you have like a challenger who might have taken the position from you? What was your competition like in this last mutiny?
Um, at this point, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the whole lineup in ARG at the moment, but it's me, Zim, Raul, Ripper, and I'm probably forgetting somebody, and I'll hurt their feelings here in a second, but I'm also like 6 beers in, so just kind of bear with me. Oh, Blue Bear is technically an admiral too, but he hasn't really been active in Murtaza. But basically, no, there was no competition. Ripper conceded basically the same day that I issued the mutiny, so it wasn't very interesting.
Yeah, gotcha. So how'd you end up in ARG? Tell us about your history some.
I've bounced around a lot over multiple embarrassingly long years of playing Nation Sims. I think I ended up in ARG as a ghost, actually trying to fight in a global war that my current alliance wasn't. I think it was Rose that I was ghosting from, with the Oblivion guys like Aki and those people. So I joined ARG to ghost and fight people. Got my shit wrecked and decided I wasn't gonna return back to Rose. Basically, just continue to get my shit wrecked for the next. I think it's been almost 3 years, 2.5 years. Ripper actually just did this math for all of our seniorities, but I don't remember what mine was.
And you've been in ARG ever since?
I actually briefly retired, quote unquote, retired to Yar, and helped them out a little bit as their one of their bankers. And then I came back to ARG and haven't. I bounced to Carthago for like a month and then came back. Yeah, very briefly.
So when you took over the title of Grand Admiral and you made the thread, you had like a list of reforms you wanted to make. What were those reforms, and go into detail about them in general?
So basically, it was just kind of like a advertisement almost of like, hey, ARG is here. We still offer our pretty much all our services. Like, if you want to pay us not to raid you, that's fine. We'll take that money with some negotiations. We're available to be hired as mercenaries. We do enjoy doing interesting stuff on occasion other than raiding and getting involved in limited politics. The NPOs last time were kind of burnt us a little bit, and we don't want to get too heavily involved in stuff, but we'll still do stuff, for the right price. The really big piece I wanted to hit on with that thread, though, was the renewed commitment to paperless politics. I feel like back in the day, we had quite a few paperless groups like Test, Rosway, ARG, and that kind of just all has fallen to the wayside a little bit, and people are just caught up in fucking bullshit at the moment. Excuse my French, but I feel like the game would benefit from shedding it.
You can't fucking curse on my show.
I just feel like people would benefit from dropping a lot of their bullshit ties. You know what I mean?
What are some ties that you think are bullshit?
This probably won't win me many friends by saying it, but I think the Syndicate and the Knights Radiant really shouldn't find themselves in the same sphere or tied together at all. Pretty much any top 10 alliance, I don't think should be tied to another top 10 alliance at the very minimum. Personally.
Yeah, this is going to sound very, very green man bad, orange man bad, but I still think the TSTKR treaty is, and now it's never going to go away. Now it's going to be here for 3 more years.
I don't know. I mean, TKR has shown initiative to do stuff. The Syndicate a little more traditional in their approach to foreign affairs, but I think they've shown a willingness to kind of back off a little bit as well. Like I don't want to sound too shitty, you know what I mean? This game is way better than Cybernation's politics ever was, but I think a lot of work needs to be done just casually looking at top 10 alliances tied together. And then another large offender, sorry, Tyrion Lannister, is the Swamp, is a ridiculous amalgam of just, in my opinion, unsuccessful alliances all piled together to try to create a large entity. Yeah, literally drain the swamp. It's if you can't stand on your own 2 feet as an alliance, I don't think piling on 1,000 other shitty nations is going to help you very much. But again, that might not win me any friends saying that.
So what are your current thoughts on the war? Do you have any in particular? As an outside party, I figure you might have some unique views, or are at privilege to say things that other people in our coalitions can't.
Um, I don't feel like I need to be particularly political here, but I mean, I think is a little too shocked at the reaction he got from preempting 2 different spheres. But I also think the general reaction of the entire world ganging up on Quack was probably too much. I don't know. It all seems pretty. I don't know. The last war I got really involved in was the NPO versus the World War, and I feel like that had a lot more interesting stakes. I feel like this war is kind of just filler. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um.
I mean, Quack probably does need to be disrupted a little bit, just economically. But I don't know if it needs the entire world on top of it to do so.
Okay, I wanted to steer away from this because I wanted to focus on Roberts, but as this is the thing being brought up, let me say what got on my mind here. Any such cooperation from different spheres against TSTKR would have been founded on the basis that that and may God forgive me for uttering these words, would be that because Quack posed too much of a threat to all the other spheres individually. If you ranked all the spheres together, TSTKR would be number 1, and they'd be number 1 by a pretty wide margin. Who's the number 2? Who's number 2? Rose? Hedge Money? Would anyone say Rose or Hedge Money come close to the strength that TKR has to bear?
Actually, if you look at the just because I had the benefit of being in Carthago recently, and they have an excellent tech team, better than Borg, but I would say they've run the data on a lot of these things, and with the Commonwealth joining the Swamp, I think Swamp is actually the largest economic sphere at the moment, even counting pre-war Quack. I hate the sphere names, by the way. I think they're fucking stupid. You guys couldn't come up with anything better than Swamp and fucking Quack. Like, that's just so silly.
I fucking hate Quack. I called them Quack once, then that was 2 minutes ago. Never doing it again. It's TSTKR.
Yes, like the Quack is a silly name, and Swamp, like Shrek memes. Are we fucking in middle school? What is this ridiculousness?
Agree 110%. This is something I've said like 3 times on my show already. It's a ridiculous name. Which the basis isn't from Shrek. It's from some fuckhead in MPO. I forgot who. Shadow Realm was ranting at Partisan about something, and instead of saying fuck, they said duck, and so that's why it's Quackspear. That's where the basis comes
That
from.
100% sounds like something Partisan would run with for the next 6 months. Yeah.
All right. Now Swamp is pretty big. I will say yes, but they're also like most of like how many of their guys are like City 15 and below? I don't think they're really. I give them another year. Maybe they'd be pretty troublesome, but right now, I don't really think so.
Tiering. I think the breakdown of tiering was that Swamp basically had no upper tier. But if you look at like GDP wise, it's kind of the same thought process that everybody was worried about. What was it called? The Guinea Pig Whaling Company, where it was like 1,500 people, all with like 5 cities, but they were churning out like in mass half the game's economy because there were just so many of them. That was kind of the breakdown of the Swamp. I think they broke it down by the in-game GDP actually per sphere.
I'm dubious of that though, because I think GDP doesn't really mean anything. I think you can use it as an indicator of certain builds, but I don't think it has any bearing on actual productivity.
I don't know. Like I don't really know that game mechanic too well to really argue that with you. That was the data that they used to break it down with. Quack was number 1 at the time, but that was when TCW had their own sphere. Swamp did not have TCW. Rose and Hegemony were separate on that list. So I don't know. It could be, but I think Swamp, if I had to put money on it, I think Swamp is currently the largest sphere in terms of economic output in the game. I don't know about tiering wise, but tiering's always kind of fucky.
Yeah, and Swamp has 700 people, but again, they're all kind of low down. And who
Well,
are their
Swamp
upper tier
has almost
guys?
1,000 now. TCW is part of Swamp. I don't know why. I don't know why it got I don't know why it got divided here, but TCW is part of Swamp, right? Or am I wrong?
It's weird. Commonwealth has an M level treaty with Swamp as a block. They have not formally joined. I don't know. I don't know why.
This is why we need to burn paper, first of all, because this is stupid.
Based.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't really understand the distinction. I think TCW's sphere kind of fell apart around them, and they are clinging to Swamp as like a lifeboat at the moment. But you know, I don't think that changes the fact that Swamp is still the largest sphere in the game right now. Although I will grant them that that is what was it, like a week before the war that got signed, so pretty recent development.
Yeah. Dulu, Spinks is gone. He quit the game in the days leading up to the war.
Swamp will be downsizing post-war. I'm actually really curious as to what that means,
Yeah, what does that mean?
because you have a lot of dead weight hanging on. I think the Immortals is probably one of the better alliances in that group, but you guys have a lot of dead weight alliances that are also hiding in there that have literally never done anything in this game, by the way.
Yeah, TI is good. I think the Fighting Pacifist is decent, but beyond that, it's a big yikes.
I actually really like the Fighting Pacifists just for the fact that they've survived so many just curb stomps. Like people attacking the neutrals or whatever. But
We are
like
silent among.
Farkistan, the ampersand's like okay-ish. I guess when you put them in a block with the Immortals and Fighting Pacifists, that it rounds out. But like Farkistan, the United Socialist Nations, to an extent, like the Lost Empire, Soldiers of Liberty. Like who is the Soldiers of Liberty? What is that? The
Well, I
Knights
think
of the
they're
Stratosphere.
soldiers and they fight for liberty. I think that. I think that answers
Very
that
well
question.
established. Like Farkistan was literally, weren't they part of that block that thought they could just nuke everybody and that would be the extent of their war effort?
Yeah, they were a part of Nuke Block.
Was KT part of that? Are you still leader of KT? I've really not kept up. I'm sorry.
No, KT was never part of Nuke Block, and I'm not leader of KT. I stopped being leader way back in 2017.
Are you like not leader, like partisans, definitely not leader of the syndicate, or are you like actually not leader?
I'm actually not leader.
But you're in KT.
Yes, I've remained a KT member since I resigned.
I don't know. It sounds suspect. Sus. Pretty
It is,
sus.
it is not unreasonable to think that it's sus. What do you make of Rose,
I feel like there's an advisory role here.
I would say that's accurate. Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting in leadership right now because I'm the only one trusted enough and active enough to bump the bank over to our actual bank from time to time.
I'm kind of interested. What's your opinion on the current fears in the game right now? Because
Sure.
I will say I'm actually really impressed that we have, if you look at the treaty web, we really do have 4 or 5 individual, mostly non-tied together groups, which is an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, and I'm happy about that. I've always liked the I've always liked the idea of the multi-sphere thing. In fact, when I started KT back in 2017, that's what I attempted to do and failed miserably at. Is I tried to kind of form this middle group of people that was outside of MPO, that was outside of TS/TKR. Well, at the time more TKR because I think TS went paperless around that time. And I didn't do good at it, but Theo and Kegos came in, and they did the best that they could with the situation at hand. And then of course the seeds of the multipolar thing that was sowed leading up to the previous Great War. That was a clusterfuck, and now leading up to this war, I think we had something pretty close to that. What do I think of current politics? Um, it's what you said earlier. I don't like the TS/TKR treaty. I understand why they signed, late in the war. That was fine. But then after MPO and them were gone, they kept it. And I don't think they had a good enough reason to keep it. I think they said it was because of Rose doing some things. But then I think Rose dropped a lot of people and they still kept it. And now, here we are, time later. And they say, oh, well, it's us against the whole game, but like, okay, look, you attacked first. If Rose hadn't come in, things would be reversed. You would be sitting on us. We've only eked ahead in damages for like 200 billion. It would be good if they broke up, but now I don't think they ever will. I think they're going to be together for probably 2 years or so. I think they are in good faith when they say that they think we all plotted against them. I don't think they're unreasonable for thinking that. I don't know if that actually happened. And now it seems like the multipolar world is going to be slowly going away, and we're going to return to a duopoly that we've had for most of the game's history. And I don't like that a whole lot, and that's not where I am with politics. I don't have any strong opinions on Rose. Um, I don't have any strong opinions on Swamp besides I think the Immortals is good and the Finding Pacifists are good. I don't care much for the rest of Swamp. I love my block. I love Hedge Money. I'm happy to be a part of it. And that's about it for me.
So you think that the Hedge Money's response to Syndicate and TKR staying together would be to solidify with the other 2 spheres, is what you're saying? Rose and Swamp specifically?
I don't think I said that at all.
You said the duopoly would form. I'm
Well, I think
wondering what that means.
Well, in a way, in practice, we already have a duopoly because we're fighting alongside Swamp and Rose against TSTKR. I think TSTKR are going to operate as if we're all three together anyways, and I think that's how things de facto will play out, even if it's not the case.
Rose is hashtag not my ally.
And it's what Avatar says. Might as well make it official. And I don't want to make it official, but in practice, it may play out that way.
I think that's probably the number one issue with the multipolar concept is that it inevitably every single time it's tried, it just turns into a gangbang of one sphere artificially limiting itself or trying to limit itself, like the Syndicate and TKR trying not to blob out, and then the other three spheres, obviously, the only reason they're not blobbing out is because they're ahead of the other three spheres, and now they're a threat. You know what I mean? So the other three spheres have reason to gang up. It's almost like an organic continuation of that multipolar, I guess, political theory is like you're gonna have multiple spheres ganging up on others groups. You know what I mean? That's kind of the whole point I'm trying to push with the shedding the paper aspect of things is like I don't think spheres are really the answer if we're looking for true I don't know another word for it, like a competitive political climate. You know what I mean? Like I just don't think forming spheres naturally lends itself to good competition. You know what I mean?
I see where you're coming from, but what's the alternative?
Well, the alternative would be something like hedge money's got right now. You have, well, not counting, I guess, grumpy old bastards in there too. You got like 5, 6 people, 6 groups that are all like, what's KT at? Like 40 people, 30 people. Grumpy
Uh,
Old Bastards is at like 30 people. Children of the Lights at like 70. Guardians at like 50 or whatever. I'm just guesstimating. I mean, I could look at it, but roughly around there. You know what I mean? You got 5 smallish groups that banded together. You know what I mean? That's a group. Quack, like I said, should split between TKR and Syndicate. Those are those groups. TCW and then Swamp and like at least 3 of the Swamp alliances need to break off and do their own thing. Like obviously people are going to sign treaties. That's not something that can be avoided, but I feel like people really need to look back and rethink, you know what I mean? Am I signing these treaties for a purpose or am I signing these treaties because there's something fundamentally wrong with my alliance and I'm trying to instead of address the fundamental issue, I'm trying to hide behind, you know what I mean, the immortals, or I'm trying to hide behind the Commonwealth or Rose or you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to hide behind it instead of fixing it to make it work. Does that make sense? In my
yeah,
drunk rambling.
yeah, it does. Out of curiosity, how do you define the spear? And you don't consider hedge money to be a spear?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
How do you define what a spear is? Because you
No,
don't consider hedge money to be one?
I would consider hedge money a sphere, but I'm saying I would consider them a good example of a limited sphere.
Gotcha, because we're more contained.
Right, because there's only 5 groups. You know what I mean? Even though I would argue GOB is kind of, I think GOB will eventually, naturally, as is the path of this game has shown over the last 6 years, GOB will naturally become the target of people looking to kill whales. Because I think that's kind of an overarching goal of most people in this game is to make sure other people don't get too far ahead. And GOB is definitely consolidating super large nations. And I think they'll become a target eventually. But for the most part, I think Hedge Money as a group has done a good job of maintaining a successful sphere without having to blob out into 400 different treaties.
Gotcha.
And that's really the only compliment you guys are going to snatch out of me because fuck KT. No, I'm playing.
um, what's Blueberry up to these days?
Blue Bear? I think I don't know what he does for a living, but I think it's something involving the like pandemic or something because he says work is pretty much swamping him lately. So he's pretty much just there, but he's not super active these days, unfortunately. I wish he was. He's a cool dude.
Gotcha.
That's pretty much how same story with Ripper, really. I think he's sucked into what he's doing in real life right now and just doesn't have time for politics and war.
I think that's kind of about it, top of my head. Are you open to taking audience questions?
He sells underwear.
Roberts, I think that's about it for me. Are you open to taking questions from the audience?
I mean, yeah, if they have any.
This Never Online guy says he has something.
What's up? He's literally in ARG.
What the fuck is Black Skies?
Is the question Black Skies, or are you guys asking who Black Skies is? Does ARG have an alliance they particularly dislike more than others? No. We're pretty diverse in that I could name you off pretty much all top 50 alliances, and I could point you towards a member that particularly hates each individual one. There's a lot of people that we all like. There's a lot of people that we all hate. It's different across the board, but there's nobody in particular that we would say is like somebody we hate. What beer are you drinking? Thalmor might actually back me up on this. It's West 6th Brewing Amber Ale, I believe. Let me double check if it's West 6 or not. Yeah, West 6 Amber Ale. You ever had it, Thalmor?
Kentucky is home of bourbon. I only drink bourbon.
Oh, that's heavy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what's okay. I got lots of alcoholics on both sides of my family, so I have a pretty strong genetic predisposition to it. But I hate beer. It just it tastes bitter and awful. Can't stand it. But
You
I
like
love me some
bourbon, but not beer?
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. It's good stuff, and I can't drink too much of it. I only buy these tiny little bottles from the liquor store because I don't
I
trust
think
myself with more.
you just must be a natural Kentuckian then. I don't know. I love craft beer stuff. The West 6, if you don't know what it is, it's a local brewery in Lexington, I think. They produce good stuff if you're ever interested in beer.
Gotcha. I'll keep it in mind. I'm open to trying different beers. Apparently, American beer is shit, and European beer is much better. So maybe I just need some more variety.
I will say, as a completely sidebar topic, American craft beer has really stepped up in the last like 5 to 10 years compared to European beers. I'm pretty proud. Finally, America equal footing with Europe on something. Politics and role play win. I actually commented on that earlier. I just don't have time in real life to run D&D campaigns at the moment. So that's on hold pretty much indefinitely, but I haven't deleted the server, so maybe one day.
What are you talking about, Roberts?
Politics and roleplay is the D&D, the PNW D&D campaign I tried to get started up. I unfortunately got a handful of people's hopes up that we were going to do a D&D campaign and then never actually had the time to get it set up. but it is there, and one day we will do it, and it'll be awesome. But it's probably not going to be for the next couple months at least.
That sounds fun. How many people did you get like on board for it?
Let me look. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 people left in the server, so that plus whoever left when I told him it would probably be a while.
I might be interested in that.
You should join. I'll send you the link if you want me to.
Sure, DM it to me.
But like I said, I mean, it's going to be a hot minute. Unless you want to run it, you're always welcome to run it.
I might want to run it. Like I said earlier, I enjoy DMing.
It's a fun time.
What campaign were you going to
link in the
use?
chat.
An original thing or what?
I was just going to go completely original. Like I was just going to go completely off the top of my head, honestly, and do it text based. It's all explained in the server if you want to look at it.
Okay.
But it was a little bit different.
So I have my own original campaign too, and it uses the counties of Kentucky and their independent kingdoms.
I love it.
It's good because the world's already built.
Yes, exactly.
And so
perfect.
And do you care? Let's talk about it more later. But like, as an idea, would you be okay if I took it over and ran this campaign of mine?
100%. Go for it. My original idea was to have multiple channels for like different campaigns going all at once because I figured we'd have more than 3 or 4 or 5 people wanting to play. But I mean, just however it goes, I'm pretty flexible about it. But if you want to pick it up, yeah, go for it. I mean, it's pretty much just a server in waiting at the moment.
Okay, great. I'll keep that in mind.
Do you prefer dark elf or orc women? Definitely dark elf. The pointy ears really get me going. As I mentioned, though, please don't out my kinks here. Thanks. Who has the best loot? That's really a question for pretty much anybody else in ARG. I'm probably notoriously the worst raider in ARG government. I'm a better administrator than I am a raider, personally, in my opinion. Black Skies is a newly paperless alliance. I think they're relatively new on the scene. Other than that, I think they're run by some dude named Gilo, something like that. He seems like a cool dude. Is Firewolf Man good man? Yes. No, I will continue to harass Borg for sure. And then, is that all the questions?
Graybird, how much longer can you be with us exactly? I want to bring you on when Nokia is able to speak. We'll see.
Locatus. Does it make me a QAnon conspiracy theorist to think that Locatus is just Borg's way of trying to take over PNW?
Potentially. You're getting close, if not.
But yeah, I think that's all the questions. Did I miss any questions? If not, thank you for having me on the show, Thalmor. I appreciate it.
Corona asks your opinion on KT.
KT? Thalmor's pretty cool, but I guess since he's self-proclaimed not leader, let me look. Wasn't you're literally the leader in game. How are you not leader of KT?
like I said earlier, I'm most active, and I'm most trusted to be able to bounce the bank back to our bank when I have the stuff to dump. Because a bunch of our members have just been generating cash and resources because there's no fighting to be done.
Is Blackbeard actually one of your members, or is he just ghosting?
He joined yesterday or day before.
So probably just ghosting. He bounces around so much. I like Blackbeard. I like Thalmor, and on occasion I can like Shifty sometimes, depending on what's going on. Other than that, I don't know anybody else in KT. I do have one thing I actually just remembered though to call you out on, Mr. Thalmor.
Sure.
What's the deal with Morningstar and Mars? What's
Oh,
the KT feud there?
sure. So, gosh, this was some months ago. Dennison was on Morningstar's server, and I think there was some disagreement on something. I think it was like a political discussion. And what was his name?
Wait,
Buck.
who's Dennison? Because he's not
Dennison.
on the list of
He's the
members.
he's the leader of KT. He's currently running the offshore bank. If you look at our alliance
Oh,
description, you can see his name next to Grandmaster. He's our actual leader. So Dennison was in Morningstar's server, and for I think over the course of a couple months, Buck would kind of harass him and call him a pedophile or whatever. And I think Dennison was finally banned or something. And then a couple months, was this in August? I don't remember when. It was like a week after we hit the Commonwealth, whenever that was. Buck rejoined KT server with a bunch of other Morningstar people, and like they just started saying these awful things like Dennison's a pedophile, KT's pedophiles. I can share the screenshots. Um,
I saw the forum threads.
yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah. Well, there was a discussion on one of the threads, but the mods kept like deleting all the posts. Do I keep cutting out? That makes it harder to share the story. Roberts,
you're not cutting out for me.
Okay, good. I do this show outside because my actual internet is so bad that I get the best connection actually on my phone walking around outside. So I do this show outside in the cold in the middle of a field at night.
What if it's not too personal? What county are you sitting in right now?
Boyle.
Okay. Let me revise the question because I'm new here. Is that east, west, north, south?
Central Kentucky.
Oh, are you near Lexington?
Lexington is about 50 minutes north.
Dude, you should have just come over. We could have had a beer.
That is, I
Ran
remember
the show
seeing.
from my computer.
I remember I went through my DMs some yesterday after I confirmed you can come on, and yeah, you're in Lexington, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah,
Just chilling.
And you know, Zigbig here, I hope you don't mind me saying, he's in Louisville. So maybe all of us could have some kind of cringe real life meetup that ends awkwardly for all of us. I don't know.
You say that, but every time I've met somebody off a Nation Sim, it's actually been a very chill experience for the most part.
You sound like a pretty chill guy. I imagine it would be just fine. Most real life interactions I've heard about with this game has always ended well. In fact, I actually know really early on there was actually two people who fucked, but I forgot who they were. It was a guy and a girl.
Dude, the girls in Nation Sims, I have heard. I've spent too long in these kind of games, and I've heard too much nonsense. But yeah, I've heard a lot of hookup stories.
Well, yeah, Kevin Pika too, I guess, but they're married. Liberty. Nah, Wing, I'm good. I'm good.
Save it for Dennison, apparently. I don't know.
So yeah, that was what happened with Morningstar. Mars deleted for a month. They all kind of went quiet. The peace talks became a mess. But that's where the beef was. When Mars popped his head back out, they launched attacks on us again, nuked some of us, and then it kind of got quiet from there. I think Mars still pretty much doesn't like us. I particularly don't like him, and that's kind of where everything is at right now.
Oh, that's too bad. Mars is a good guy, I think.
He was
Despite
pretty.
being Eastern European.
I had him on my show once, and he seemed pretty decent. So I don't know what all that was about, but whatever. I think that's about it. I'll ask one more time. Does the audience have any questions they want to ask? Roberts, you've been a great guest. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now we've been stalling well. I think that'll be it, Zig, if you don't care to go ahead and mute Roberts for me. So I got Graybird here, and he's going to talk some about what's been going on between Tate and the coal mines. Nokia also said he can probably come on, and I want to wait for him to come on before we really get into it here. You did out me, Yang. You bamboozled me with that. You really did. You got me. Traps aren't gay. That's a good point, Vero. I haven't thought about it. I haven't thought about that.
Since I'm not muted yet, traps definitely aren't gay.
Why do you think that? What's the
YouTube
logic?
instantly demonetizes your whole channel. Okay, first of all, have you seen some of these traps?
Some of them are pretty attractive. That's why they're traps. No one falls for a trap if the bait ain't good.
Exactly. It's not gay if it's a trap. You just fell into it.
How about people who like intentionally seek out traps wanting to be trapped? Is that gay?
I don't even know how you would identify an actual. I mean, unless they're a bad trap. I don't know.
Bad
Isn't the
trap.
point of a trap? Isn't the point of a trap to like be passable as a woman? I guess. A trap, then it would just be a dude in women's clothing. I don't know. I'm probably offending all kinds of people at the moment.
It's okay. I've said worse. Redacted. Oh, all these redactions.
Going by Yang's avatar, I'm 100% sure that he's into traps.
When it comes to anime profile pictures, you can safely assume the worst in all cases. Which is that's basically half my audience.
I think T. William is probably the only person that's played Nation Sims as long as I have.
How far back does your history in Nation Sims go?
I think he's probably actually played longer than I have. Mine to 2008, 7, 9, somewhere in there. Like roughly right when Cyber Nations became a lot less interesting. I jumped right on the worst part of the bandwagon. Yeah, I knew King William had been here longer than I had. Zig, I technically was also on before CN, but I don't count nation states because we just don't talk about nation states. That's one of the worst games. It's literally text role play. It's not even a game. It's just
Yeah,
a forum.
I was about to say, is it even a game?
It was almost
Not
a
really.
game. It was really the prototype, though, the first generation.
It was. I'll give it that. It definitely sparked a genre, a very, 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 very niche genre.
And weird genre.
It's still going, I think. Like I think
Oh,
Bro
it's
Quentin is emperor of NPO in nation states.
oh, nation states is massive. I'd say there's probably hundreds of thousands of players.
It has 200,000 active nations, but you can make multis. So like when I played it, I had like 10 nations. So I don't think it actually has 200,000 active players.
Yeah, the rating of the rating of alliances, which was always silly.
Yeah.
How did that even work mechanically? I forgot. Like they vote something, don't they?
You had to join. So basically, the alliances, quote unquote, were actually called regions, and you had to change your region. Each person in the region could vote on the senator of the region. So basically, you would mass move people over to a new region, outvote their current senator, and vote in whoever you wanted it to be the senator.
That's where Pacific came from in New Pacific Order.
Yeah, the region in nation states is called the Pacific. There's also the North Pacific, East Pacific, South Pacific, etc.
And the Pacific ones, I think, are like default ones that everyone starts out in. I think.
It's actually funny story. I actually spent a hot minute in multiple nation states Discord servers trying to get them to send over mass groups of members, similar to how the Guinea Pig Whaling Company group had joined W. I was trying to get rivals of the Pacific region to send over hundreds of nations over to PNW to form a kind of counter Guinea Pig Whaling Company. And I actually did get quite in depth talking to one of the groups over there, but I don't think it ever did anything. Maybe a handful of people joined, but
Did you
I don't think
remember
it was
to
ever
offer
a
them
big
anime?
push. I did not. I gave them a lot of role play speeches about defending freedom and blah blah blah. I really went full force into trying to recruit them into PNW, and they just would not do it.
Fucking William Wallace speech.
I really did. But that was before Alex just decided to delete NPO from the game.
Which was very based.
Which
just
yeah, it really was. Like, I can't even be mad about it. I appreciated it.
I think the ban should have been permanent instead of 6 months, a year.
At least we can all agree, even while fighting each other in a global war, that we all hated NPO.
Yeah, that's something. These nation sims are so fascinating because they develop these really interesting and complex histories to them.
Have you ever read the wiki page for the Karma War in Cybernations?
No, I haven't.
It like elicits emotions.
I know EVE Online, I think there's been books written about conflicts in that game.
I've seen news articles about EVE where people are like comparing, because I think you can transfer the currency into real life money or vice versa. So a lot of the clickbait articles are like, this guy just lost, whatever millions of dollars in real life in a video game.
Yeah, I think it's because you need to pay for a pass to keep playing, but you can also buy the passes with in-game currency. And so that's how, and they get a conversion rate from that. That's how, some massive, 8-year-old ship gets destroyed. And it's like, oh, there goes $20,000. And then there's this big war with thousands of players and all their ships get destroyed. Oh, there goes $700,000. And it's fascinating.
Yeah. So maybe this has already been brought up, but obviously we're talking about different nation sims. We got to bring up the newest, quote unquote newest, if it even launches in the lineup. Have you guys looked at A&O, sorry. A&W is a restaurant. A&O, Affairs in Order.
That sounds like something a doctor says when you have a terminal illness. You better get your affairs in order.
Affairs and Order.
Oh, man.
That was actually one of the few interesting things from that podcast. Is someone actually asked Sheepy what he thought about Affairs in Order, and he actually was like, "Yeah, this is cool. It's run by a 14-year-old, just like I did when I started Politics and War the very first time, or whatever, Pixel Nations or whatever it was." He was like totally supporting it because he knew how hard it is to actually do it.
Oh my god, I completely forgot Pixel Nations existed.
Well, some things are better left forgotten.
You know what I really had big hopes for was Project Terra. Did you guys ever play that?
No, what is it?
It was run by this guy named, I think, Wally or some shit like that. I think he's in TKR right now, actually, but he's relatively inactive, or he was in TKR at one point. You played Project Terra, King William. You 100% did. But basically, it was just a really well-designed nation sim game, but it had some technical issues, and the admin never got around to actually fixing them or continuing to develop the game. He kind of just dropped off the map, actually. I don't know what happened. I think he got a few offers for people to buy it, but I don't think he ever took anything up on it. Also, honorable mention goes out to Silicon Dawn. That was also a brief but shining star.
Go into detail because I don't know what you're talking about.
Silicon Dawn was so good. I don't know. I got so sucked into it. It was a space-based nation sim. So you started off with your planet, moved out into your solar. You ever played Stellaris?
Yeah.
It's basically that, but in a browser-based grid system instead of a nice pulled together Paradox game. But it was pretty good. You made like fleets of spaceships, fought against other, and they had like community events in like special areas of space where they have like kind of like in Halo with the Forerunner Halo rings, they'd have like I can't remember what they called them, but ancient civilization technology that you had to go try to compete over. It was actually a really good game. It just I don't know what happened to it actually. I logged in one day and the website just didn't exist. Guy didn't pay his bills, I guess.
Going back, what's happening in Affairs in Order? Like you mentioned it, I don't know anything about it except it's a new game and Goons is fucking around in it.
They claimed it would launch in October at the latest, and then they changed that to October and November. And apparently there's still problems with it. Honestly, I kind of dropped out of paying attention once I realized several former Goons people from PNW became moderators in the server.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It might be a good game eventually, but I mean it's once the Goons got the moderator positions, I was like, okay. A little too much for my tastes, personally. What is chromo? Oh wait, I know what that is actually. Never
Chromosome.
mind. So when's KT going paperless again?
I don't think we will.
Since you're
I
the
think
leader.
we're happy with it. I think we're happy with hedge money. I mean, there's no incentive to leave.
Shaking
Let's
my
see.
head, shaking my head.
I loved being paperless. It was really good. See, we went paperless in response to we thought at the time. Okay, so there's some history here.
Mm-hmm.
We was in the middle of the last global war, and it
With
was linked to
PNW, right?
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, with NPO, right?
Yes. And I resent them some for it, and I've forgiven them now, but I didn't like it for a while. But both Theo and Kegos both wanted to just go ahead and kill KT, disperse the membership, and then move on to other things to fight this, never-ending war against the eternal enemy, MPO. And the Horsecock basically said, "Fuck that! I'll just take over," and they let him. On their way out, they deleted Upper Gov Chat, which has been around since even before the alliance was started. So all that history is just gone forever, unless I get an attorney to subpoena Discord. But that's not going to happen. So that's all gone, unfortunately. But anyways,
Wait, who deleted Other Gov Chat? Kigo?
Theo asked Kegos to, and Kegos did it. So it was both of them.
So Theo is obviously Syndicate Gov now, right?
Yes, and Kegos is Children of the Light leader, I think. Or maybe he's Gov.
So did Theo having a less than auspicious leaving of KT play a role in you deciding to jump in on Quack this war?
Completely unrelated. In fact, well, they jumped on us, so that's kind of a silly question.
I mean, if you say so. Allegedly. That's up for debate, according to Phoenyx.
They they blitzed us. I mean, that's fact.
I don't know, man. It's a lot of narratives floating around. I'm just not sure anymore.
No, I'm over it now, but it sucks losing all that history because like talks about like big decisions, early memes going back to before our found, like just I don't know, a lot of history gone.
Oh no,
But
I
anyways,
completely understand. That's how I feel about a lot of the channels on the ARG server. Is like the Admiral chat probably goes back to literally 2014. Like there's some pins in there that are just like I don't even know who these people are. That's how old it is.
So, anyways, Horsecock took over as leader. He really did save KT, and it was his decision to go paperless. I'm trying to remember what was the gosh that was a year ago. I'm trying to remember what was the motivation for going paperless. Let's see. When we went paperless, he also wanted us to negotiate peace separately, which pissed off MPO quite a bit. They really didn't like that. I don't remember what the motivation was. Was it freedom? Was it? I think maybe it was. I think it was maybe just a general. Maybe I could ask him. But anyways,
The motivation for what?
For going paperless.
Hmm.
And I can't.
If I recall at the time, I mean I wasn't in KT ever, so I don't know. But people thought it was a attempt at a political move to kind of end the war.
That might have been it. I can't remember for sure. Epi says because we were mad at our coalition. That also might. I don't remember. That bothers me. I can't remember. But we decided to go paperless. After the war ended, we remained paperless. In fact, actually, after the war ended, we fought a bunch of small wars. We blitzed a bunch of micros. We ended up tussling with Rose. Rose was they wanted peace an hour after the war started, and they were really mad when we didn't give them peace. That was funny. Um, so that was something. We ended up quitting paperless for two reasons. First off, Horsecock, he decided to quit the game. Real life was a huge factor for him, and he found it no longer tenable to keep playing. So he left, put Dennison in charge, and the other factor that contributed was that KT members weren't taken too well to paperless. Some people were doing really great rating and stuff, but some weren't, and so it's decided that after a year of just being at war constantly, it was said, okay, well that's enough. Let's go back to let's exchange our rifles for hoes once again and go back to farming. But that was a fun period of time when the war ended and we were raiding. That was great because I already kind of say whatever I want to say, but back when it was paperless, man, I could shitpost to my heart's content, and that was really fun.
I will say there is a certain freedom that comes with not having to be tied down to people, for sure. Exactly. Rosalia pretty much summed it up for me right there. The only thing I could think of when you were saying that some people weren't profiting from raiding was in ARG, we call those people future X members. I mean, not because we kick them out. Obviously you're free to stay and do whatever you want. But, if you're not having a good time, you typically leave. And it's just how it is.
It's busy work raiding to make your income.
It is.
Yeah.
I won't deny it. It is. But it's also, in my opinion, I've tried, I retired to Yar, built 3,000 infra per city. That was boring. You know what I mean? I went to Carthago to try to participate politically. That was kind of interesting, but I got called back to ARG too quickly to really get a good taste of it. But I've run other alliances. Shamefully, I founded Polaris however many years ago that was.
You founded Polaris? Wait a minute.
I was the literal first member of Polaris. Yes, I founded that alliance.
When?
I regret my decision immensely, and moving on from there.
Okay.
Disband it, please. I would if I could, honestly, because they're a shadow of what they were. Cybernation's drama forced me out of politics and war Polaris. I was a member of the New Polar Order in Cybernations at the time.
What happened? Why was he driven out? If you don't mind.
Oh man. So to rehash ancient history, I don't know how many people here actually even played Cybernations, let alone would know enough to know what I'm talking about. But at the time in Cybernations, the new Pacific Order and the new Polar Order were enemies. I was the new Polar Order's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I was helping negotiate or renegotiate the re-signing of what was called the Ordinance of Orders, which is a lot of buzzwords. Am I talking too much, Vero? Anyway, long story short, I helped negotiate a new treaty between NPO and the New Polar Order, which were estranged groups at the time. Anyway, one of the caveats of that newfound treaty was that they were going to hit one of my former alliances, the new Sith Order. There's lots of orders in Cybernations if y'all have never played.
Could you say that there's affairs in order?
There's lots. Yeah, there's lots. There's actually just 3, but the new Sith Order, new Pacific Order, which was the original, and the new Polar Order, which was the second. NSO is the youngest. Was the youngest. Anyway, I had fondness at the time for NSO. I was trying to protect them and form like a little side block around Polar so that we wouldn't be entirely dependent on Pacifica for our, political whatevers. Anyway, so in my distress, I may have let it leak that the new Sith Order was the target of the next war to the new Sith Order government people who thought I was friends with at the time. They in turn immediately leaked that I leaked to everybody else. I got burned out of it. I got kicked out of the group, the Polar group in Cybernations, and I voluntarily resigned from the group Polaris in Politics and War. So I just didn't want to deal with it. Long ago history, though. I promise it was very dramatic in 2017, probably 16.
Was you playing Politics and War and Cybernations both at the same time?
Was I?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started Polaris as basically a recognition that Cybernations was dead, and that the group, the social group of the New Polar Order, needed to either find something to move to or wither and die with Cybernations. So it was basically just an attempt at community continuation. And then it turned into what it is now. Pretty much right after I left, which is just an inactive blob of people that I raid regularly.
So, Roberts, what's going to happen politically after this war?
After this war, you think?
Yeah.
I haven't really been keeping up too well with it, to be honest, to give you a great answer. My personal hypothesis is that apparently Swamp is going to do some downsizing, according to Tyrion, so we'll see how that goes. We'll see if the Commonwealth keep their tie to Swamp or try again to form their own thing. I don't know. Other than that, Quack will probably do some reaching out to people that are pissed off at their current coalition. I don't know who that is, but I assume that they know who that is. And there'll probably be some reckoning between Quack and whoever they dislike the most, I guess, would be my best guess. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been in peace talks and stuff, so maybe Quack will go amicably and move on and something else will happen, but I just get the sense that people will be out for revenge a little bit post-war.
So, how do you feel about the game mechanically? What are some changes you would make if you could?
I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm actually on the quote-unquote dev team, which is not as prestigious as it sounds. Alex actually makes most of the changes without ever consulting any of us. But we do have certain input sometimes. My big focus, being an ARG, is always the war mechanics. I don't remember if I reached out to you specifically, but I did reach out to somebody in KT. The last war in DMs, I usually reach out to leadership or Milcom at some point to try to get feedback on the war system since I've been on the dev team. So basically just collecting suggestions, shooting ideas back and forth with certain people that seem a little more interested in talking about the theory and mechanics, and just trying to kind of round out and balance things to where hopefully they won't kill rating as much as they want to, and hopefully balance out the war mechanics a little bit so that things aren't as always one-sided as they usually are.
They want to kill rating?
Incrementally, I would argue. Like, the last several suggested changes have been stuff like, what if, like, removing beige, for example, was a hard hit to raiders. I think that's actually why Mythic disbanded, was when Alex removed beige from the game. Obviously, it's very hard to raid if you're just constantly slotted. um, Another one was like the suggestion to increase soldier casualties because people felt like soldiers don't die fast enough, I guess. It's more of a compound effect on raiders than it is like any individual update. Like I would say removing bays is pretty bad, but like additional soldier casualties would probably hurt raiders in general as well. And yeah, I tend to agree with Avatar Patrick here. Is a lot of incremental changes instead of a comprehensive approach to the war system results in a shitty fucked up meta. That's but like I said, I kind of try to work really closely with a lot of people and do my best to kind of represent the player base, I guess, in terms of keeping changes there.
Mm.
And Prefontaine does he does better than what a lot of people think he does in terms of trying to prevent shitty changes from moving forward. But sometimes Alex is just going to do what Alex is going to do, you know?
I haven't been a fan of Alex's time as an admin.
Well, I mean, now's a good opportunity. What do you think would be your number 1, 2, and 3 thoughts on war mechanics currently in terms of like changes that you would be looking at?
The most immediate thing would be I want the changes done to city score be undone. I hate being locked into this tier because it's just I can't do anything. I can't raid anyone smaller than me. Being a city 28, I'm in this upper group of players, and outside of them, I can't. It's taking away my ability to contribute to wars like this, and I hate it. Whenever
100% agree.
you know, I forgot who it was. Oh, it was when Pantheon declared war on Children of the Light recently. Um, I okay. KT's MMR is like no soldiers, 40% tanks, full aircraft, right? And like 20 and like one ship per city, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And to hit this high, like one of Pantheon's biggest members, I had at City 28, I had to sell all my tanks, all my ships, and all of my planes except 500. I declared in double bot and then I was okay. But it's getting to the point where I have to seriously consider selling infra to hit people, and that's ridiculous.
No, I agree. I think mistakes were definitely made with recent score changes. Yeah. I think mistakes were definitely that's kind of the number one problem I've been running into is a lot of like I said, the quote unquote dev team doesn't really do a lot. Like for the last post in there was literally 7 days ago. So I mean, the group as a whole hasn't been doing a lot lately, but when we do get into discussions about mechanics, it really one of the big problems I've run into personally is people are wanting to make changes on top of changes that need to be reverted. Like the score changes
Yes.
need to be
Yes.
revisited before we can look at, all these other things. The changes where tanks kill aircraft. I don't know if I literally do not know if Alex ever actually fixed it, but I actually went with him through the math. The tanks were killing like twice as much aircraft as it was intended to kill, and I to this day I don't know if he ever fixed that. It still might be doing twice as much as what was intended, I think it was like 30 something percent more than intended, but basically it was supposed to kill a certain amount of your daily rebuy, and it was killing like way more than that. And we had to go through it. I don't know if he fixed it or not, but that's the number one problem I've been running into, is that a lot of changes have been made recently that need to be revisited first before we can kind of build upon those. And it's very hectic. I don't know if you kept up with the proposed changes to spy mechanics and spy kills, but that got very complex very fast. Instead of just wanting to reduce casualties, it turned into this whole, well, what if we make an entirely new spy system thing? And I think it literally died in the cradle, so to speak.
Yeah, I remember Pri's thread on that, and that thread ended horribly because people really hated it. And I agree. The best fix to spies would be just reduce. At the start of this war, the Syndicate killed 28 of my spies in one op.
Right, and I have shown exactly. I mean, I've literally shown that math to people, and they will. I've had people argue with me that if you cannot blitz spies in that manner, then there's no point to having a spy. Like there's no point to using spies. And I don't really understand that logic, but that's kind of what I've been running into. Is if I can't kill half of your standing spies in one attack, why would I even use my spies? You know what I mean? It's just like, what do you argue? What's your counter argument to that of, well, I think the system should be balanced. You know what I mean? Like what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it's a ridiculous argument. Yeah, because
So
all the spies get
it's a
killed.
lot of butting heads.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a Robert. You've been playing for a long time. Have you ever had a politics and war dream?
Probably not that I can remember.
Okay, I have about one each year, and I had one a couple weeks ago. And this dream, it was only for just a quick moment, but I got a notification that I lost 28 spies. Like when the war happened, I lost 28. This was in my dream, and it was really funny because I don't have nightmares very often, but when I do, I have this response to it that I recognize. And in this dream, I saw I had lost 28 spies. I had the same response to it as I do in nightmares. So I thought,
Oh,
I thought
man.
that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, Vero, exactly. That's how I felt when daylight savings time kicked in, and I've missed at least 3 or 4 double buys the last 2 weeks because of daylight savings time, and I'm like, damn. Yes, we're still stalling. We don't know where the other guests are.
So Nokia said he couldn't come on. Then he said he could. Then Graybird had to go, but he thinks he can be available soon. I'm only going to give this until 11, and then I'm done, no matter what. Cause I'm not gonna wait forever here.
City caps, actually, no. I personally feel like an issue in the game right now is the cap on growth as it is. I would actually like to see a development of more upper tier people. Like I feel like right now it's pretty much, unless you're stupid and just want to spend all your money on a city, you're capped at like 40-ish, really 30-ish unless you're just prideful, I guess, but right now you're capped at like 40-ish cities. I did actually recently propose a reduction in the bell curve for that though, but nobody liked it and it got downvoted into oblivion, so I don't know. Cities are cities are a flawed mechanic, as has been acknowledged by Alex on multiple occasions, but it's too hard coded into the game to go back and fix at this point. So we're kind of just working around the idea of cities and their ever scaling costs and stuff. Another big, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but another big thing we've been trying to go around since I'm still stalling for Zig apparently is uh a lot of new updates coming through are just new projects. So a big thing we've been looking at is how to increase project slots. Um, because like 60% of all new suggestions are coming in as new projects, which a lot of them are really good and interesting, but we're the current discussion is how to get around adding content to the game without adding projects, because eventually it's just going to be ridiculous.
All right, Robert, thank you so much. You've been a wonderful guest. I'm going to go ahead and yap my gums at Gray now, okay?
For it.
All right, you
I'm gonna
take
jump
care,
off
Robert.
here. You too. Talk to you later.
Good night. Bye. All right, can someone go ahead and unmute Gray for me?
I have already been unmuted.
Hey, Gray, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. So what's the deal with the coal mines and you guys?
Alright, so I'm going to give you the rough overview of it. Despite ChangeUp's claims we were not searching for a CB, our statement simply was that if he refused to pay us, we could use that as a CB to reclaim our loan. ChangeUp took the screenshot out of context. There's a lot more to the channel than he provided.
Did you cut out? Okay, he cut out.
No, did you? I cut. Oh my god. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Did you hear anything of what I said?
Something about just start over. Just start over.
Alright. So the screenshot that ChangeUp provided is out of context. We were not looking or actively seeking a CB against the coal mines. Green's statement simply was that in the case that Nokia refuses to pay back his loan, we could use that as a CB to reclaim our loan.
You can use that as a CB to reclaim the loan. Yeah, did you cut out again?
To raid him and reclaim the loan.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you post the screenshot that ChangeUp provided? Because I haven't seen that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, where is it?
That makes sense, Liberty.
There we go.
All right, here. If he doesn't pay it back, I bet you'll regret it. We make twice that in a month just from our taxes, Gray. I make his monthly interest in a day just on my own. Yeah, it'll be nice if he does pay it back, but it's also something we can use to convey a war if we want to. You and I both know there are plenty of folks who would jump at the opportunity of a demonstratable info CB on them. Hold on, let me plug in my external energy bank here and then go back outside because my battery's about to die. I don't know, Gray. There's some interesting language in that one.
I will admit it's poorly worded.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Audience members, what do you think of what Green said? Based. Yeah, I think it's iffy. Uh, I'm having some trouble with my energy bank here. So I think the language there's a bit too strong. Like, okay, I understand that if someone owes a debt, that like you can raise them to get the money back. That's no one would have a problem with that, even between allies. That's not the worst thing. Green seems to take it a bit further here because he says it's going to use convene a war if we want. That sounds like there's more to that. And then you and I both know there are plenty of folks who would jump at the opportunity to have a good CB on hand. That sounds kind of hostile. What do you have to say about that?
Bad wording. That's all I have to say about it.
So,
I honestly,
like,
it's my view that his intentions were that he was simply stating that we could raid them and use it to get people to raid them to get our money back. But I honestly don't know what his exact intentions by his message are.
so where was the screenshot taken from? A gov chat or something?
It was taken from ChangeUp's ticket, his employment ticket at TAFE.
Gray is from TAFE, Kratos. So the coal mine also states that you guys stole $1.75 billion. What's that about?
There, and they are yet to tell us what they mean by that either. So I have no idea what they mean by it.
Okay, gotcha. And also, I think a Rose guy said that they also stole other billions of dollars from some point, at some point. What's that about?
Someone from Rose said that.
Yeah, it was in the thread that was made.
Could you post a screenshot of that?
It's red. It should be pretty easy to find.
Who else did you steal money
Because
from?
Yeah, there you go.
I have a real question, really quick. This is Zig, by the way. How much did coal mines actually owe? I saw someone say something, but I want to hear it from someone that knows.
I think
sure.
at the time, our initial amount that we loaned them was 1 billion, but I think at the time they only owed us, I think, around 800 million left still. So it wasn't that much.
How would Green make that much money in a day? 800 million is not a trivial amount.
Let me say a day.
Like, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking the numbers don't add up unless you guys
No,
are making
he said his
absurd amounts of
interest
money.
rate, the amount of interest he owes us,
Oh,
the
right.
interest on the
Okay.
loans we make in a day. I can't tell you what that interest rate was, but
It
it was
doesn't matter.
enough.
It's too high no matter what it was. Interest is usury. That's all. Thanks for listening.
So, Gray, you don't really know a whole lot about what other people are talking about.
I have absolutely no idea where their accusations are coming from.
I think so, Kratos. That might have, yeah, that was when we fought GGFU. All right. Well, thanks.
I believe that comment from Commander Joe is about money that Green owes them from pre-Taith during DOOOOON'T or one of his previous alliances.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks, Gray, for coming on and kind of trying to clarify some things. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem as if Nokia will be able to come. He hasn't responded. I messaged him maybe 45 minutes ago. I'm just going to go ahead and assume he won't be able to make it because I'm getting kind of tired, anyways. Thanks, Gray, for coming on.
One more thing, I do have a bunch of logs for the different chats that are involved in our recent accusation, so I'm just going to post those here.
Gotcha. Thanks, Gray. I'm sure other people can go through them and see what they have to say.
Yes, Zig, we do have a website.
Green likes to make websites for his little projects.
That's because it's his IRL job.
Yeah, he's an IT guy. He does good work. You didn't have to do that, Firewolf. Well, I think he's at work or something. All right. Well, that's probably gonna be about it for me for tonight. Thank you, Gray, for coming on. Someone play the theme, and we'll end the shindig.